we look at people who are doing things we don't like, including ourselves looking at us doing something we don't like, and then we beat ourselves up for that. And I want you to think about the math of that. That's where I try to live, is in the math, right? Where I'm a person who was expanded in the bliss of emptiness. I habitually grabbed onto something. That grabbing pulled me out of that state. I'm lost and suffering and freaked out and feel like I'm going to die. And I've lost all of my resources. And so in a moment, I grab for this, and then I grab for this. And then pretty soon I'm really far out from the wisdom that is encoded in emptiness, encoded in the erotic mind. And I remember once that there was something, I know there was, but now there isn't. And so there's a scrambling. And remember, scrambling, urgency, immediacy, they're all parts of tumescence, because suddenly you've gone from being the totality, you've gone from being connected to all things to now it's just little you all by yourself with the whole world shooting arrows at you, and you've got to make it through. That's what happens in the mind in that moment. So compassion is a really, it's not a platitude. It's not even an instruction. It's just smart. If you saw some child wandering alone in the mall, terrified, you wouldn't go up and say to it, like, you should have remembered to stay in emptiness. You would want to pick up the child and you would want to say, okay, what's the last thing you remember where you got lost? Oh, okay. What did the faces look like? What was, and that's what I do in my own mind. So one of the things that I said yesterday is I do this in the morning, I do this at night. I do it in the morning alone, and then at night I read it to somebody. And I do just extensive inquiry, and I live in that throughout the day. And yesterday I mentioned I have about 1,000 questions that I ask, and I'm just in a constant state of inquiry. Oh, my right shoulder hurts. What could that be? And so then it's, what do you want me to know? And, oh, I remember there was that point, and I can do this actually right now. There was that point where I got that text and I thought, like, oh, I'm going to punch somebody. And, oh, that's holding that. Okay, why was I going to punch somebody? What was the thought? Oh, well, the thought was, if I actually spoke, I wouldn't be heard. Okay, well, why wouldn't I be heard? What is the idea of not being heard? Oh, well, I have this idea that people don't hear women. Oh, is that true? Is that true that people, have I ever been heard? Yeah, I have. Well, what was different than this and that? Oh, well, this, I've let a lot of resentment pile up. And actually, my fear is that if I were to speak, the resentment would speak and not my heart. My heart seems to always be heard when I look back at it. Okay, what is that resentment and where did that start? Oh, well, it started in this moment when I said something and I was dismissed. Well, what did I make that mean? By the way, this is actually my real, my inventory. What did I make that mean? Oh, I made it mean that the person thought they were superior to me. I made it mean that that maybe actually I was crazy. I made it mean this variety of things. Okay. Could you have looked at that differently in that moment? How could you have looked at that differently? Well, I could have looked at it like they didn't actually understand what I was saying. Oh, has that ever happened before? Many times, many times. And that I was speaking a top level headline to somebody who didn't have all of the facts to build the understanding into what I was saying. And I was moving way too fast for them. Oh, okay. So what would have amended that? Well, patience, for sure. Patience would have amended that. Patience, and then really that connection to the totality, because when you're in the totality, these things make sense, and because you can feel another human being and you aren't in that little bubble of alone, you're part of that person. And so it's a different time dilation. And you have the time and space, it's for me, it's kind of, I'd say almost aquatic or like taffy. There's almost like a taffy between things, right? But that's connecting it. When we talked about the mycelium network and the hyphae and the way they actually are connecting all of the trees, and not just like trees, but all trees, that you kind of can sense that. It almost becomes visceral when you're in that experience. Okay, so you're in that place. So why wouldn't I do that in that moment, when every time I've ever done that, it's had positive outcomes? Oh, well, I can't believe I'm running my inventory for you. But I had feelings that I was holding back, and I was trying to be a good person, and I was trying to block a desire. And so all of that happened as a result. Okay, what was the desire? We don't need to know. And then, oh, okay, so what do I do here? Because now I have a map. And really, my desire is that every single human being have the map for unmediated access to the erotic mind.